I think it is obviously a very dangerous escalation. Remember when we announced the strikes on the 9 terrorist targets or hubs, what we had said that these we have attained our objectives. They could try either to do it again tonight. Tonight may well be a day on which we'll have to watch carefully. They may also combine this with an attempt to do a sub-conventional attack through another major round of infiltration using the cover of LoC firing. How do you get Pakistan back on, let's say, the grey list? Compelling new case based on the new set of evidence that you have about not just terrorist groups there, but also about explicit state complicity, military support, and abetment for it.
I've seen last night a major escalation
Yes.
on the Pakistani side, and they have also attacked some of our cities, which attacked, although was repulsed.
Right.
As a diplomat, how do you look at this situation, and how far it can go?
Well, I think it is obviously a very dangerous escalation. Remember when we announced the strikes on the 9 terrorist targets or hubs, what we had said that these we have attained our objectives, and we do not wish to see any further escalation, because that was our objective, that justice be served and that deterrence be, in a sense, established and a political resolve be conveyed. Now, after that, Pakistan had a choice either to not escalate, or they have taken the other choice, which is to respond militarily. Now, their response had to be on civilian or military targets. And that is actually, in a sense, declaration of war. So the first night, they have actually tried to attack so many civilian and military targets in India that were repulsed. In turn, we, as we have always said, we will try to maintain escalation dominance. We responded very effectively, domain for domain. That is very important to remember, once again, in a measured manner, just to send a signal. But then we saw a higher level of response from Pakistan yesterday. Perhaps what they wish to achieve is that if they can break through this wall and of air defense that we have established, and get one major target in India, whether it be a military establishment or a major city, then they can actually claim that we have been able to deter Indian aggression, as it were, and then try to change the narrative. Now, that is also combined with two other forms of engagement with us. One is the traditional intense, escalated, elevated firing along the line of control and the international border. With dense population and living in very close proximity, it is obviously a situation fraught with great risk for our people. The second is the information warfare, which is entirely new in the area of era of social media, artificial intelligence, deep fakes, because that can have impact in terms of confusing the people, creating a dissonance over here about what's exactly that is happening, and then can affect the morale. So I think these are the three areas. Now, will they further escalate? They could try either to do it again tonight. Tonight may well be a day on which we'll have to watch carefully. Or they might take a pause and hope for our guards to drop and then come back and attack again a little later. And they may also combine this with an attempt to do a sub-conventional attack through another major round of infiltration using the cover of LoC firing. And to just sort of say that we have been able to teach this. Again, pass this off as something that was emanating from within India. So this is a range of options. They will continue. Remember, we also have to be very watchful on cyber attacks. But in terms of visible military operations, I think they have to reach a point of inflection, recognizing that either escalation or expansion into other domains, such as ground offensive or naval warfare or direct use of large-scale use of jets, military jets can lead to a further escalation from our side, and which will impose a huge cost on them. So that's a point that they have to make. It's not for us to decide. But that risk remains.
Javed, also another thing, India is also trying to isolate them diplomatically, and in fact telling the world that what they are doing is wrong. Do you think that, what is your assessment of it, whether world is understanding the semantics or the arithmetic of these kind of attacks, why Pakistan is doing it, and are they understanding India's point of view?
So I'd say this, let me put it at three different levels. One is that there is always an unqualified expression of solidarity and sympathy and support for India with regards to the terrorism. But there is also a reflexive tendency to locate this in the context of what people call the long-standing disputes and rivalries and issues between India and Pakistan. So that, in a sense, kind of creates a context or sort of rationalizes this a little bit. And including from our closest strategic partners, you see that kind of an expression. And therefore, it is also important to mention that it's one thing to have solidarity and support, quite another thing to translate that into concrete action. Concrete action in terms of punitive economic, financial measures that creates disincentives for Pakistan to pursue the path of terrorism and enables it to change its behavior or induces it to change its behavior. But that is perhaps not likely to come. We will, of course, press the case in FATF. We will also press very hard when it comes to the IMF bailout package, as you've already heard our Foreign Secretary mention. Now, then you have to see this in another context. We look back on 99, 2001, 2008. We're in a different world today. It's an international order in some sense has collapsed. You see almost every country preoccupied with its own set of challenges. America is trying to completely look about making it, renegotiating the terms of its international engagement. It no longer wants to be seen as someone that is leading the world. It just wants to focus on making America great again. Europe is caught in a war, and between geopolitical rivalry of China and the United States, Russia, China, Middle East, all have their own set of problems. So it is in that era. So you don't see that kind of, I recall in the past, there would be immediate shuttle diplomacy taking place between India and Pakistan from the United States and other countries. That sort of is missing. You've seen a perfunctory offer of help from the US president. Vice President Vance is none of our business, but everyone expects that it is not going to escalate. And I think there is a much higher threshold of acceptance for our action because of the turbulence that is there in the world and in a general dilution of the overall power structure that exists in the world and the way power shifts are taking place and the way the United States is also redefining itself and its role in the world. So we'll have to actually manage a lot of this on our own. Having said this, I think if there is a point of escalation, I don't even rule out possibility of, say, US and Russia, and perhaps also bringing China to work together on this. Because that may be a great way for the United States and Russia to show that there are areas in which they can collaborate, given the proclivity of the current Trump administration in this regard. Now, that is something that I think we would also want to avert. And I think our external affairs ministers and others have made it very clear that we're not going to escalate, but we are just going to pursue our objectives with regard to terrorism, and they need to understand and accept and accommodate that.
Sir, you mentioned in your last remarks about disincentivizing Pakistan by punishing them or by stopping some aid from IMF or FATF. You work very closely with FATF in France.
Yes.
So, sir, please, can you throw some light on this aspect of the conflict?
So there is nothing, these things don't happen overnight. I mean, you need to, how do you get Pakistan back on, let's say, the grey list? Now, compelling new case based on the new set of evidence that you have about not just terrorist groups there, but also about explicit state complicity, military support and abetment for it, and the lack of any steps that they have taken with regard to cutting off terrorism financing and support. And once we make that case, we'll have to really lobby all the members, first at the APAC level, and then we'll take it to the FATF plenary. But it's something that I think we will pursue because we obviously will build a whole body of legally sustainable and acceptable body of evidence on this. Now, IMF is going to be also a process of negotiations. And again, there will be countries that will support saying that, you cannot penalize the people of Pakistan. Pakistan also has some sort of a strategic value for them. And also they also cooperate with them, ironically, on counterterrorism. You heard President Trump mention the support they got in his first State of the Union address with regard to getting somebody. So that's also an asset that Pakistan has. But that would not stop us from mounting a very comprehensive and concerted. What we would argue also for countries that provide bilateral assistance to Pakistan is that they really do need to condition assistance to steps that Pakistan takes on terrorism. Remember that many of those assistance packages actually have those provisions, yes, but they are usually waived or they are diluted in larger interest.
US put that condition initially.
Yes, I was in Washington, D.C., working the Congress when we had when there were a number of conditions. I saw Congress put on the Enhanced Partnership with Pakistan Act, but they were either waived or were diluted as a result of the ongoing war in Afghanistan.
Another big worry here in New Delhi is the role of China, which is another giant in the region and which has a very, very close ties with Pakistan. And there is a worry, like I will say in a layman's language, there is a worry that China may also enter the conflict or may support Pakistan indirectly, although the public statement from China has been very measured so far. So, do you also factor in this angle in this scenario?
Well, I think, there are different. First, I have to say that, we do take or war game these situations, or we do prepare for a two-front war, as you are very well aware of it. But of course, that will always be a challenge. What I'd say is that to us, it is on the basis of evidence or what I see from China, its internal preoccupations, a set of problems it is dealing with in its own neighborhood, but also in sorting out this great trade issues with the United States, that it has no particular interest in getting into a direct conflict with India in this war. It may provide a certain level of assistance to Pakistan diplomatically, which it will, without doubt. And it will also provide perhaps, you'll have to also take into account perhaps a provision of assistance in terms of satellite imagery, signal intelligence, and perhaps continue to supply munition for the weapon systems that they have. But, so that maybe it will be limited at that level. But I think at this stage, China is also interested in finding a way to ease tensions with India and try and normalize relations as it deals with the massive trade dispute with the United States.